Hey, this is Frank Yost, the CEO of Ketone. You can email me directly, frank@ketoneaid.com. Make sure to subscribe here because you're going to find content here that it's not regurgitated stuff that you find everywhere else. And go through old posts. You can see the difference between ketone salts versus ketone ester, why you shouldn't mix MCT oil with ketone ester, how to use ketone ester for sleep, and all that stuff. And also put a comment in there if you learned anything or if you're going to try this. Today I want to talk about how to use KE1 or KE4 ketone ester for kicking your caffeine addiction, if that's something that you want to do. If you're in love with your caffeine, people don't want to touch their caffeine, then great, you can go on. But if you've tried to quit coffee and had a problem, this is something that you might want to try. So I didn't drink coffee growing up, and I got to maybe age 40, and then I started drinking coffee because of the whole bulletproof coffee craze, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. But then what happened to me after a few months, and probably what happens to people after multiple years, is it just stopped working. It didn't seem to really do much. It took me from, it seemed like it was taking me from a worse baseline, and then it was just waking me up back to where I should have been anyhow. And then it takes a long time to get off of caffeine. It can take 40 days, withdrawals, headaches, and all that stuff. Well, we actually have found that caffeine, and I just want to real quickly talk about, some doctors think that caffeine and coffee is healthy, and they will cite these papers, and maybe it is, they're doctors, I'm not a doctor, so, but half the doctors say that it's healthy, half the doctors say that it's not healthy. Caffeine is a stimulant, so it is a drug. And yes, there are some papers that show coffee drinkers live longer, and they surveyed 100,000 people in a certain country. But then if you actually look at the fine print, it actually also said that the decaf coffee drinkers versus the caffeinated coffee drinkers, there is no difference. So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about the coffee bean benefit, or are we talking about the caffeine itself? I think people, when they're talking about I love my coffee, they're usually saying I love my caffeine. So was it the caffeine that made them live longer, or was it the bean, or was it that people that can afford coffee tend to live longer because they have more money? Who knows? So there's 100 citations on both sides. Only you can decide what you think is best for you. But I have heard that people want to cut back on their coffee, and I have a separate video that I can touch upon briefly here about mixing ketones and coffee. You got to watch out for that. A lot of ketone salts will sell. Sometimes they sell only the caffeinated version, and the reason for that is the caffeine will really multiply. It's not that caffeine will multiply the ketones, it's more the ketones will multiply the caffeine. So that jittery feeling, if you're taking ketones, it can make that caffeine, that 1 cup of coffee, feel like 2 or 3 cups of coffee. So sometimes people say, oh yeah, I took these ketones and I really felt it. You're pretty much feeling you're more likely feeling the caffeine effect and not. So if you really want to try ketone salts, separate the variables and buy them caffeine free, and then if you want to add your own caffeine later, so be it. So we do tell people that are normally taking caffeine to either cut back to a decaf, so not a decaf, but a half caffeinated and half decaf, because this one person that said that they went to decaf directly, and she said, I felt nothing. And I said, okay, well, what do you normally feel when you cut out your caffeine? She said, oh, normally I'm brain fog, I've got headaches, and I'm irritable all day. I'm like, okay, so you didn't have those symptoms, and you took something that was, all natural, not a stimulant, and it was ketones. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't think of it that way. So that is success. So you're taking away a stimulant, but you're replacing it with a cleaner energy that's not a stimulant, that won't have the crash like caffeine and affect your cortisol levels at night, and mess up your sleep and stuff like that. So that was success, for her, that she felt quote unquote nothing. She felt the same as before. So we tell people when they want to ease into it, you might not go straight to swapping the two, because you might feel quote unquote nothing. So instead you can do maybe half the caffeine with the ketone ester, and then from there you can slowly wean off. But yeah, so we've had people use it instead of having maybe the second cup of coffee in the day. They'll grab ketone ester. As far as how much to take, everyone is different. Our KE, we've got the super concentrated, stronger KE4, and then we have the KE1. It's about the same price on a cost per gram basis of ketones. This is much more diluted. So if you're taking there's 2 capfuls of this is 10 mLs, and that equals 1 bottle of this. So some people will take 1 capful to start off and see how that works with their, half caffeinated. That would be the same as taking about half of the KE1. So you take it out on an empty stomach, you take half the caffeine, see how it goes, and then if you normally do like a second cup of coffee, you might try, the other half of the bottle of KE1 instead. And then if you, in the afternoon, have another cup of coffee, you could take it then. Or you could keep your morning routine the same, and if you take a second cup of coffee in the afternoon, which we know is closer to sleep time, and that can mess up your sleep in ways that you don't fully realize, you can try to swap out and use the ketones towards the end of the day as, the 3 to 4 p.m., 3 or 4 hours after eating lunch, when you might start to fade. You can use the ketone esters instead of coffee that way. So yeah, post your comments. We also have a Facebook group where I got these ideas from, that people said that they've helped curb their addictions to caffeine, and actually even some people cigarettes, but maybe we'll save that for another video. And try different amounts with and without less caffeine, and try to wean off of caffeine completely. And then what I do is, with the caffeine, I bring it back in once every week, or actually more like once every 2 weeks. I bring it back in, and then I really feel it. So that might be a strategy that works for you, to selectively bring it back in, as opposed to just having it, every single day. And if you still want to have your decaf because you like that ritual, that's what I do. I take decaf in the morning, and that's part of my ritual. All right, thanks again. My email is frank@ketoneaid.com. You can email me directly. Hit subscribe and check out the other videos that we have on dozens of topics, and make sure to join the Facebook group. And there's a link at the top of our page, ketoneaid.com. And you can order direct from ketoneaid.com and grab the subscription as well. That'll save you a little bit as well. Thanks. Bye.